right, guys, I'm gonna call us to order at 6:05 PM according to my laptop. And do we have any public comment for our closed session items? I see no one here in
Nothing on
person,
email.
and we have nothing on email. Excellent. We'll move on to our roll call when you're ready. Trustee Donnelly,
Present.
trustee Edmondson,
Present.
trustee Jackson Miller, present. And we heard from trustee Dickinson and trustee Rodriguez that they would not be here. Thank you. All right, we're going to convene into closed session.
Now we can put the.
Yeah.
Please stand. Place your hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Soquel Union Elementary School District Mission Statement. Staff, students, parents, and the community help ensure that each child develops the skills and character necessary for lifelong achievement and responsible citizenship in a diverse world.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Xander. Xander, if you don't mind, I have a certificate for you. Can I read what it says out loud so everyone can hear how great you are? Yeah, okay. The Soquel Union Elementary School District Board of Trustees Certificate of Recognition for so many words, Certificate of Recognition for Student Pledge of Allegiance Leader and Mission Statement Reader is awarded to Xander Brown, 5th grade student from Soquel Elementary School. Xander exhibits strong skills with math and writing by always putting forth 100% effort into his assignments, activities, and homework. His growth mindset, positive attitude, and strong leadership skills contribute to both his academic and personal success. Xander is an empathetic and caring friend who treats everyone with kindness and respect. He shows integrity and self-awareness in everything he does. In addition to his academics, Xander loves to be active and engage in physical activity. He has a passion for surfing and loves to play basketball and research basketball facts. He currently surfs for the O'Neill Surf Shop team and would love to be a professional surfer in the future. Xander, thank you again. Congratulations. May I present you with the certificate, and thank you again for being here, and thank you, Mom. Is it okay if we ask you a couple questions, get to know you a little bit better? I'm sure my colleagues here at the board table might want to know a little bit more.
I should ask academic questions. Team O'Neill, that's impressive. How long have you been surfing?
Well, my dad took me out on a boogie board when I was 6 months old. So I don't really know if that counts, but
It does. You got hooked. That's fun. That's great. And then besides math and writing, do you write stories or you had to write for Surfer Magazine?
not quite.
Okay.
I do sometimes write like research topics on surfing and basketball sometimes, just for fun.
Great. Great. Walking encyclopedia trivia for surfing and basketball.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you have a favorite basketball fact?
There's too many good ones.
There you go.
Yeah.
What do you, so you're a 5th grader?
Yeah,
Is there anything you're thinking about or looking forward to for when you go to middle school?
probably just meeting a lot of new people.
Yeah, New Brighton has a surf team if you're interested in that.
Yeah, I think I might try to play for that.
Yeah, as well as lots of awesome academics and clubs and lots to do. So you get to be exposed to a lot. Yeah. Any other questions from the table? Anything for Xander? Yeah, well, if it's okay, we'd like to take a little picture with you to commemorate you being here with us. All right.
You stand right in that corner and then face out towards the big TV.
And
This lady will take your picture right here and the
Witter,
mom
come
can
on
take a
up.
picture.
Is your teacher here or no?
Yes,
Oh.
Any of your former teachers?
Yeah, Team Xander.
Who? Like come in a picture?
Yeah.
See the whole trajectory.
Yeah. Great, everybody smile. One more. Okay, everybody look at Mom.
There you go.
There you go. Awesome.
Wow.
Thank you, Xander.
Yeah, Sandra, thanks for starting off tonight.
Yes.
All right, see you often. We'll see you in the water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seated over there.
Yes.
I figured you could
Got it,
figure that out.
got it. Thank you. We always love starting off our meetings with our students and our time to see students. I also wanted to take a moment for something that's not on the agenda, but just for us to take a moment to reflect and have a moment of silence in honor of Rowan Parham, who was a former New Brighton student who passed away recently due to just a horrific situation that I'm sure we're all aware of. So we thought it would be an appropriate time for us all to take a moment. And we are all, of course, sending our well wishes and good thoughts and condolence to his family and friends and all who taught and loved him. Our next item is the adoption of the agenda. I will just mention for those coming in, we have 2 board members absent tonight. When we did our roll call earlier, we've got some folks who aren't able to be here tonight. So this is the crew we're working with, but do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Were there any changes?
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
it would just be the
Thank
item, I didn't write down the item number, but the LCAP bite. It would
Thank you very much.
to table that until next.
So make a motion to table the LCAP bite till next meeting.
Okay.
Or to
So we're gonna
adopt the agenda.
remove, we'll remove that agenda, or that item, okay.
So removing item 7C due to Dr. Lance's
Yeah.
absence and postponing that to a future agenda. So I have a motion. Do I have a second? I'll second. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I'll second it.
Our next item would be the report out of closed session, and we had 1 closed session item on that. On a vote of 3-0, the board voted to deny the claim. Next is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve and adopt the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have a second.
I'll second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Next is public communications. As the agenda notes, people have the opportunity to communicate either via email or here in person. Do we have anyone here who'd like to address us on public communications for anything that is not on the agenda? Okay, and seeing none, do we have any emails for public communication?
Nothing on email.
Okay, thank you. We will now move on to our standing reports. First item would be from our Assistant Superintendent for Business Services.
Well, good evening, board. This is kind of a little bit of slow time for business right now. We've just finished wrapping up our audit report and first interim. We are getting into second interim and then budget development. So kind of January, February are our cleanup times and which is a really great time to have brought in my new director, because this is giving me an opportunity to spend time with her and being able to help her learn this stuff in a little bit of a slower time in our world of business. We had the opportunity since the last board meeting to hold our safety committee meeting. It is a requirement of our JPA that we hold a safety committee meeting 4 times a year. And we have representation from every school site, and we talk about not just safety in the sense of safety, but ergonomic safety, safety hazards, all kinds of different things that come up in regards to fire drills where bells might not be working properly. It's an opportunity for the sites to give input on any of those broader areas of safety, which is, we, like I said, have 4 times a year, and it's one of my favorite committees. Also, we had our very first FOSS meeting, which is front office staff meeting, and it is an opportunity. I shouldn't say our very first with our new director, Laura Struckmeyer, to lead the meeting, which was great. We have introduced 1 new member, and we'll introduce our 2nd new member at our next meeting as the dominoes of some of our new team here at the DO take effect, and people are kind of moving around in their positions. So it was really nice to go over some things we haven't in a long time, just for standard practice and getting everybody, a lot of new people to the team. And so that's a really good meeting. And I really enjoy those meetings because we don't get a lot of opportunity to have interaction with the school sites on their day-to-day processes and get input from them. We've just been, I'm going with my calendar a little bit here because we had an opportunity to meet with the FPT team, and that was really nice. We had some input. We talked a little bit about the governor's budget, which I have a presentation later on in the agenda, can talk about what the proposal is and just kind of some next steps. And really just kind of shoring up everything, getting ready for second interim. That's kind of where we're at. I'll continue to meet with Climate Tech. I'd like to say we are going to have a formal presentation from Climate Tech at our next board meeting, and they'll go over phase 1 implementation, which has already happened, and then phase 2 implementation, which is going to start this summer and then into the next school year. And also next week, I'm very excited to have an opportunity. We're going to start working with Maddie, our architects again, and they are helping us with the to begin the design process for the new playground at SoCal Elementary. And so that's great. I'm looking forward to that. They're going to start the basics off, and then I've already spoken with Principal Witter about forming a committee like we kind of did with our other playgrounds and looking at options. So kind of get the lay of the land and start that process with implementation this summer. DSA.
Kindergarten playgrounds?
It's been something that's been on our radar for a while, especially since it was the last playground that wasn't able to get redone with our bond. And then now with the implementation of TK going full blown to 4-year-olds, and it's not quite there appropriately. So we want to make it more appropriate for the younger ones that are coming in. So that's kind of our next project that's up and coming right now.
Thank you so much.
I'll piggyback up a couple of items. Michelle mentioned her safety committee. We have a review team for the comprehensive school safety plan part 1. We had that meeting yesterday. Included cross-section of the district and law enforcement. So campus supervisor, teacher reps, parent reps, law enforcement reps, and all administrators. And that's a little bit more of the programmatic piece related to safety, looking at data related to California Healthy Kids Survey, suspension rates, chronic absenteeism, and what we're doing about it. So we'll be updating that plan here very shortly. So at the next board meeting, I'll be bringing it to you. And so it's good to have that team give some input and just raise the awareness level about that comprehensive school safety plan. I too thought the fiscal prioritization team was a really good meeting last week. Thank you, Kelly, for being the board representative on that team. I think it's all a nice flow. So budget presentation tonight, having the fiscal prioritization team, having a board study session, part of which the focus will be on budget, all the good ways to chunk out. School finance is very complex, and so it's not something you want to do all in one big sitting and kind of chunk it out. And so I appreciate taking that that approach. I had a chance last week to attend SoCal Elementary's Kindness Challenge. Great job to all of you. That was like the highlight of my week. Couldn't have more fun than coming to see Miss Fox Choir sing, and just a celebration of kindness, and especially at a school where they live that every day, not just on kindness awareness week. But it was nice to celebrate it that day. We're beginning enrollment for 2023-24 on February 10th. Can you believe it? It's that time of year.
Wow.
So everybody behind the scenes has been gearing up for that. Tech team behind the scenes with our student information system, making sure we're all ready. It's been really great to have Jen part of the district office team, because she gives us that insight from what it's like at the front office at a school site. So I feel like we're improving our systems even more. And the final thing I'd like to say is something I've been saying ad nauseum, but hopefully all for a good purpose, is that the community forum is 1 week from tonight. It's 6:30. Watch your local news. You might see something on it on KSBW. So come on over to the PAC and be a part of the LCOP.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Next, we'll start with items from CSEA. Hi there, Mr. Domo. Thank you for sharing the table.
Too much to share.
All right.
Present. Want to thank our meetings with Ms. Kennedy every other Thursday. That's been working out really good. We get to communicate and let her know what's going on. We just want to follow up on our last meeting, just about the time frame of somebody resigns from a position and giving a 2 weeks notice. How long is it until the next position is open or then out to the 2 months? That's pretty much it. That's all I have.
Okay. And thank you too for being part of the fiscal prioritization team.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Also, the kids looked good. Saw them from my window.
Let's see, we didn't talk about hair. What we talking about
Tonight, yeah, were they there? Wasn't that flag football? Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Great,
Yeah,
great.
we have,
A man of many activities
I
and
know.
talents, right? You're like, which one of my
I just
many?
want to say that this is the most sports we've had in one quarter, which is 7. So we have 3 flag football teams and 3 volleyball teams and 1 wrestling team. So, you know, the wrestling has 40. The volleyball team is 45, so that's what we have 95, and then 15, 30, 45. So that's 140 kids that are being after school program. So it's just, I walk out there and he's just like, and you hear people getting slammed, going to the gym and it's spiking, burpees. So it's better than it was during COVID year.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, next we have items from SEA. Welcome.
I just mentioned I have a therapist daughter, and yesterday she was, thanks, Mrs. Martone, and she was leaving. I was like, thanks for what? And she was like, being my teacher. Thank you. Small world. My son was like, all today. I'm just gonna read a statement from SEA. Welcome to the first day of Black History Month. During the month of February, we paid special attention to recognizing and honoring the struggles, triumphs, and contributions of African Americans throughout our country's history and into today. SEA recognizes the importance of both historical awareness and positive representation in the lives of our students. Some of the special education staff has expressed appreciation for the hiring of the 5 itinerant arts key position, which has taken some of the time-consuming assessment burden off of them. Many people may not be aware that in addition to assessing and providing service minutes to the students enrolled in our schools, our special education staff is also required to complete the assessments on students who attend private schools within the boundaries of the district, so that added support is available. Santa Cruz Gardens is working on updating their online staff bios, and they are excited to welcome dance teacher Gina Garcia and music teacher Andy Shapiro to their site. As spring comes, they look forward to more nature journaling and shaman hikes. Main Street School completed their Job-a-thon fundraiser last week and appreciate all the support from families and friends who helped with that. Field trips have also returned to Festo, and Main Street teachers are happy to be able to provide as many of those learning experiences as possible once again. 4th grade at Main Street is preparing for its annual Cabrillo College experience to help students envision a future college or vocational education for themselves. Finally, STA would like to express our condolences for the loss of a young life in the Mid-County community. An 18-year-old formerly riding and SoCal High student named Noah Farland. While we have no information about the circumstances of the shooting, this violence in our own county, along with the trend of teenagers arranging fights so they can be filmed, only underscores the importance of our commitment to honoring the dignity of every student under our care, understanding them as individuals, and helping to foster the strong social emotional skills needed to help equip them for positive intra and interpersonal competency as citizens of our local and global community. We grieve the loss of Roland's future and the potential gifts this young man could have offered our society.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to items from trustees. Anyone in particular want to get started?
I have nothing to report out on, but this room is quite colorful. And I love the monarchs up there, and then our mission statement and our about us, that the banner there. So yeah, thanks for making it quite colorful in here.
I'll go next. So I attended the fiscal prioritization meeting. That was great. I was more of a parent, but I went to the fun run fundraiser at Main Street, and it was just so great to see, the kids just, taking laps, splashing water. It was really, that was fun. And then this is what I'm super excited about. I talked last meeting that I made some contact with Jimmy Panetta's office. So since then, I've met with our California School Board Association PACER, who kind of, I don't know, she's the connection, but so she kind of prepped me on, kind of some background stuff that you do before you meet with a legislator, and gave me some advice. So I'm going to be reaching out to different people, in the teachers, just to try to see what you know, what's needed. And then his office got back to me and we're figuring out a date to, have like a Zoom meeting.
Awesome.
Great, yeah.
Very exciting. Thank you. I have one item to report, which was that I attended the Santa Cruz County School Boards Association meeting on Monday, January 23rd. And that also was an opportunity to talk to local legislators. So that's a group that's got representatives of folks from trustees from different school boards throughout the county. So we had our newest assembly members, Dawn Addis and Gail Pellerin, in attendance. And then we had a representative from Assembly Member Robert Revis's office, and he's about to become the speaker, I believe, in June. So we've got great representation in Santa Cruz County. We also had a representative from State Senator John Laird's office. And so it was a nice, informal but very robust conversation around local education needs, storm recovery, and issues affecting our schools and our districts with our legislators. So that was a great meeting. I was glad to be able to attend it, and I will send you my update. Thank you. All right. We're going to move on to our first presentation, which is a presentation from Principal Witter regarding SoCal Elementary. Yes, SoCal.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. All right, so this is gonna be presentation on our programs, and it's gonna be using a model that we're working on. So that model is STEAM. So STEAM, you know, of course, very popular term, right, in education, right, comes from STEM. STEM comes from Cold War, with the worry that the Soviet Union was getting ahead of the US, right, with the space race.
Mhm.
And so then the initiative, right, was to have more science, technology, engineering, mathematics. And then over time, right, STEM has had different definitions, right? One of those really being that it's a way of teaching and learning. It's really about students being engineers and being scientists and being writers, etc. And so there's been different acronyms as well, but with STEAM, right, that added the A to it, and that's the addition of the arts. It's the addition of English language arts. And so really that's the definition that we're using with this model that I'm going to go over. So this is the model. So basically I'll give you an update on our programs through these different components. So what we're calling SoCal STEAM. So first is experiential learning. Again, I'll go more in depth in the different slides on these, but this is students, right, learning as the particular profession, as mathematicians, as readers, as writers, etc. Visual and performing arts, social emotional learning, innovative spaces, skilled and collaborative staff, and community partners. All right, so first, experiential learning, right? A big part of what we would call, right, STEAM. Three areas that we've really been working on. First one, literacy instruction. Did a lot of work first half this year setting this up, and then we've really been pushing on that second half of the year. But this is really taking our strong English language arts program that we have and really trying to upgrade it with what the research is telling us right now, particularly in reading. And particularly there, it's in the primary grades. We're looking at in kindergarten through fifth grade. So we have a trainer that's working with our staff, where it's going to be 6 days total this year. We've had 1 day so far. Another is coming up in a couple of weeks. We're going to be looking at some supplementary materials in phonics. There's the new reading units of study for the primary grades, really adding the science of reading research to it. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to be adding in some, decodable text as well and looking at those. So that's some of the work under that. For dual language immersion, hard to believe, right? We're more than halfway past our first year, right, of having DLI with our kindergarten class. We're therefore looking at the first grade class for next year as well. So this is where it's going to go from the 90-10 Spanish English model to 80-20 for first grade, and really what that's going to mean and how that should be done. Teacher is doing a fantastic job, Miss Oliva, on starting off the program. And talking to her, big piece for her this year has been really actually working with families, because this is families where they, obviously might not be proficient in Spanish, might not know much Spanish at all. And so how do they best support their kindergartners in that program? And then project-based learning. So project-based learning is it's learning through a project, as opposed to like when I was a student, it was learning and then you would do a project to sort of show your understanding. Really one of the most engaging ways to learn, great form of experiential learning. So we're having half of our staff is being trained this year, so that's 3 grade levels. So it's a 3-day training and they all do a project, about an 8-week project with students. And then next year, the second half of our staff will be trained, they'll do a project. Teachers that did a project this year will look at adding a second project for the next year. So all really exciting, I think. With visual and performing arts, I stepped into at SoCal a very strong art and music program. So, lucky me. But they have continued that work this year. A couple of things we have upcoming. So we have tomorrow night at 6 p.m. is our community choral concert that we're going to have. And then on May 4th, we have Arts on the Green, which is a tradition at SoCal. Haven't had it for a few years, so excited to bring that back. And social emotional learning. So first one, positive behavior intervention and supports, right? PBIS, all of our acronyms. So very important piece. So big focus with PBIS is really being intentional on teaching kids our expectations, reteaching, right, when appropriate. And an example of this is, let's say, in looking at incidents that were coming up, a pattern that we saw was games where kids had just different rules they were using, or they're using rules that aren't the best for school. And so we've now made our SoCal game rules for our 6 games that they can play. And we just went through a process of, we call them game rules rotations, where over 3 days, we train all of our grade levels on exactly how we're going to play games. So just an example of PBIS. With the ruler SEL curriculum, we work on emotional intelligence as a staff and with students. So with our emotional intelligence charters, with our mood meters that we do on a regular basis, right, to help us really understand what our emotions are, how to regulate them, right, if appropriate. And then counseling. Counselor has been a huge asset to our school. She really is involved in all components, I would say, of the school, but big pieces for her have been class lessons and then also small groups. Innovative spaces. So what we're looking at right here with the garden, that wasn't there really at all a year ago. So really excited. I mean, it really has been built as was planned. Having a garden teacher, that's not necessarily the space, but huge asset. So the garden is there. Having Miss Mac has really been amazing. She does all parts of the plant, growth process. She's doing school-wide composting right now. So that has been great. Maker spaces. So we wanted to have a maker space for design challenges and then for projects. What you're looking at right there, that's the furniture that we're going to have for our maker space. That's not the maker space. So we're going to be building ours. We want to do it though with the model that we're using, and that's really that, students are the engineers, students are the scientists. So they're going to build the furniture for our maker space. And so on the 22nd of this month, we have an organization we're working with, RAP, and they're going to come in and we have a schedule for the day. So all the kids are going to be a part of building this furniture. So we're going to have tables and then different storage pieces that are there. So that'll be built. And then we have this Friday, a professional development for staff on maker spaces, and then we'll have one a month later. And skilled and collaborative staff, high quality professional development. I mean, this is just a big part of where, our beliefs came from, our strong beliefs in terms of instruction. And then, as I mentioned already, so professional development this year has been reading, project-based learning, and maker spaces. And then collaboration, that's how we do our work. So with a model like this is how staff is able to do it, is that time to work together and have processes to be able to do that. Community partners. So, first one, again, our acronym, so ELOP, Extended Learning Opportunities Plan. Our staff really has stepped up with this one, so we have staff doing after-school classes, so we have academic classes, enrichment classes, intervention. We have over 100 kids that are participating. We're about to add more, so we were just able to do that, so that has been a big success. Community organizer, so this really is huge, so we now have a full-time community organizer at SoCal Ella. We had a staff member who was doing an amazing job, sort of additionally doing some of this work, but now having someone where really that's their job. And that's with the Cradle to Career community, or the Cradle to Career organization. So she's with us, she's really kind of learning the school right now, but this should be really big in terms of supporting parents, parent education, parent events, etc. And then, of course, our parent organizations. So our homeless school club, our school site council, English language advisory council. We have our Latino family literacy project, which we did a first round, first half of the year, and then we're going to do a second round, second half of the year. And yes, that was all a mouthful, but that's an update on our program, right, with our state level. And I also just want to thank Superintendent Turnbull and the cabinet who have been super supportive for all of this work. So yeah, thank you for your time.
Do we have any questions on this awesome presentation?
I'm curious about the games and the rules and what games that you
can tell the
modify
difference.
the rule.
Yeah, it's actually it was Enrique's wife. She was helping us, Ms. Belmont. So part of it was with each of the groups that we were training. It was like, okay, guys, and I would say to them, Ms. Domo is a coach, right? And she told me that, when you're practicing your sport, if it's basketball, whatever, you're maybe at like 80%. When you're in a game, it's 100%. When you're in school, that should really be 60%. This is school sports. So it's things like basketball, they don't keep score. It's man-on-man defense only because they want to swarm and then you just have problems.
Well, yeah.
So
Tackle the guy with the ball. Yeah, okay.
and we allow them to play soccer, but soccer is just, it's tough. You don't have a ref out there, so it's working on rules, for that. So limiting the number, etc.
Who's out there playing and, okay.
Yeah. So it's, we do like a normal soccer game. It's 11 on 11. But just working on, we don't do any slide tackling. There's no elbows.
You
Understand.
can really see the difference on the playground. I will just say, and it is a
Okay.
perfect example of PBIS. Because it's proactive, not reactive, right? Rather than waiting for the students to inevitably get mad at each other and reacting to that, it's setting the stage so that everybody knows the rules and playing by the same rules. So you can really see the difference. Yeah.
I had a question about the project-based learning. That's like a model, right? Like, because we heard about that with Santa Cruz Gardens. Is that the same model? Or is it your own?
Oh.
thing?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what model they looked at. This is, there's a couple different organizations that are out there. This is, they're in Napa. I want to say it's PBL World. It's PBL Works is the organization. So they're probably the biggest of the project-based learning organizations. They're great. They, from COVID, their training, which is excellent, but now they have a virtual training, which, pluses and minuses, but the plus is it's just much easier for us to send staff. Because otherwise you have to go to Napa or you have to pay them to come, which is more expensive. So yeah, and I'd worked with them in a previous district, but they're great.
But so it's like a format, like like it's a way of teaching.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah. So it's really about students are creating an authentic product is the idea. You're integrating it into different subject areas, so it's not just a standalone. Let's see, our first grade is going to be doing a project where because they were our first grade level that was trained. So it's going to be first graders that are going to be they're going to be studying the creek, and then I think they're going to be teaching all of us about creek safety. Yeah.
Funny water.
Wow, neat.
Yes.
Can I ask you of the February 22nd, was that the date that the makerspace is going to be worked on?
Yeah.
Can you just elaborate on that a little, only because I know how cool it is. I'd like you to tell I think you may have some interested visitors if you tell them a little bit more about it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's gonna be a schedule for the day, and so all of our students will be a part of it. I think it's individual classes or regrouped classes. And this organization, so it's a resource area for teachers that's in Santa Clara County. And so they come, I want to say they have 7 or 8 people. They have sets of drills and all the different tools. The lumber is going to be delivered the day before. And then it's going to be our students making the different pieces. Yeah, so it should be great. We'll have parent volunteers as well. All the kids have to do waivers to get ready. Yeah.
If you have a free day that day, that you.
Yeah, just checking the calendar.
Yeah, makerspaces are very effective at other
Yeah.
schools across the country.
And I'll share the schedule so you can see like grade levels
Okay.
when they're gonna.
Thank you. I had a question about the counselor, and you'd mentioned that the counselor teaches all class, like whole class lessons and then works with smaller groups. What are some of the whole class instruction? What does that look like?
So it's, I think it's 2 things. It's so the curriculum that she uses is second step, which is very good. So that's the curriculum, and then she just really does it based on need.
Mhm.
And so an example could be like this week we're doing data meetings with all of our grade levels. So that could be an example where what comes out of there on sort of the SEL side, she's making for classes.
Mhm.
A lot of times it includes like a read aloud or an activity that they do, but it's some kind of, SEL related message, skill, et cetera.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Well, at the beginning, you said codable text.
Yeah.
And what is that?
Yeah, so that is decodable text really would be, it's text where they can decode everything that's there. And so it's level decodable text. And so this is really the idea that it's a shift to more of a focus on phonics and being able to sound out words. And so that we're looking at some different supplementing materials, but a piece of it is just like, for our current program right now, having high interest books is a huge piece of it. So hand in hand is, okay, having books like that, but where kids can really sound everything out, where they've been taught all of the phonics for the words that are there, that then they're practicing, as opposed to, let's say, like a pattern book, where they're seeing words based on, they're putting it out based on a picture or something like that, that helps them. So a little bit different in that way. This goes along with, this is the science of reading research that's been out there for a while. That really, we're seeing is the most effective way to do it.
Is that new books you bought or that you guys were able to get?
So Dr. Glanz is going to be, she's ordering, there's a couple different publishers that are the most known for it. So Heinemann with Units of Study, they've came up with, it's their jump rope readers, they call them, they look great. So she's ordering, I think it's 1 for each of our grade levels. We're gonna maybe get some books from another one as well. But that's really sort of the upgrade that our libraries needs.
And the dual immersion class can also take the same approach and strategy.
Yeah, for sure. And it's, they will be a part of it. Just like she has been in our trainings, and it's a little bit different, it's a tweak with all of this when you're thinking about it, but the books that we have for that library are more on the decodable side as is. So that's good, but that will be a part of it.
I'm excited too for the community organizer. I can't wait to see what great things come from that.
She's actually tonight, Ilda Fernandez Meza, who was wonderful, who was really kind of almost doing that role in addition, to being an intervention teacher. She actually tonight is meeting with her and some of our main parent leaders, because that's how they like to work. The Cradle to Career organization really is, you're empowering your parent leaders to do a lot of this stuff. So they were there as I left to come over here.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate you. I wanted to see if we had any questions from our audience, though. You don't mind. Yeah, or comments. Yeah.
Thursday sport.
Yeah.
I didn't see that on there, but my daughter loves it. Thursday night.
And Blake tried to catch it when
I think that's. And then your planter boxes, was that maintenance, our maintenance department. I built the plenty boxes.
Planter boxes were, so I think it was a combination, I think it was maintenance, and then I think, Mrs. Roy has just been going over and above, kind of getting whatever resources she could. So she had some like donations of time that she had worked with some families, so I think it was a mix,
I looked at it.
yeah.
And then my last thing is I know you were talking about sports and I always wanted to have like a. Inter-district mural, I believe it would be called, different elementary schools just kind of play against each other and stuff. But I don't have time for that. Someone to step up and take that on. But thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the audience? So many knowledgeable SoCal folks. Yeah. Anything on email?
Nothing.
No, all right, they have their chance. Thank you kindly, that was
Yeah, you're welcome.
awesome, awesome update. All right, our next item is also exciting, the update of the governor's budget for the. Oh, did I miss something?
Nope, just waiting on George.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, the clicker. Thank you, George.
My apologies. Thank you, George. Update on the budget.
Yes, good evening, board. Again, this one is one of the shortest. Aw.
You can always watch it later.
I cannot blame you. This is one of the, I know, oh. Thank you, Enrique. This is one of the shortest budget presentations I'm going to be giving to the board, I think, since I've been doing this. The governor's budget proposal this year, or for his January budget proposal, I should say, was very conservative in the sense of there's a lot of things that weren't in there and there's a lot of things that were removed from there. So as you can see, my presentation is only about 3 slides because there really wasn't a lot. I'd like to say I was not able to attend school services budget workshop. It was when our last board meeting was taking place. And capital advisors is tomorrow. And so, but I've got all the documentation is from this board presentation from that. And there really isn't anything that I hadn't gone over in either of those presentations. So we'll just start like a little recap. Obviously the pandemic is, I believe, officially over on February 28th. However, we are still seeing and dealing with some of the financial impacts of the last 3 years and what that not only has done for our budgets, but also our students and our staff and all these. It's hard for me because in one sense, I am so excited about the ELOP monies that we are getting and continue to get. It's a little later in the program, but they're in direct relation to the fact that our students hadn't been able to attend school for a while and need these extra supports. So I'm so excited to hear about all the extracurricular and the ELOP and the sports and all those programs that we've been able to add. I just hope that legislation keeps that funding going for a while and that doesn't end soon. Staffing shortages, they continue. CNS is still not fully staffed. We have aid positions that we're having to contract out on because we can't get in-house aid positions. Recess coaches, if you know a friend, there's recess coaches available. So, and this is not unique to us. This is across the board. All of my counterparts in the county are having these same issues, trying to retain and keep staff and just having positions that are just hard to fill. So I don't see that changing in the next year. So part of that is some of the funding that's coming down the pipe is a lot. The governor's putting a lot of money into helping, helping people go into the teaching credential program, helping classified staff with a path of a job avenue and things like that, where our employees are given additional opportunities for some funding and then able to increase their career. Inflation is with us. Inflation is not going away. I every time, as a side note, I go get gas, it's like roulette. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. So I think this is still another part of the conservativeness of the governor's budget for January right now, with inflation still playing a part of what's going on. Revenue projections are down. Revenue projections are down from the July adopted budget, just to be clear, in not only Prop 98 guarantee, but also in the big 3 taxes where most of our revenue is generated. Again, Prop 98 guarantee is down. And one thing that is definitely not in this proposed budget is a lot of one-time funding that has been removed. So we're looking right now at an 8.13% proposed compounded COLA for 23-24, which will be applied to the LCFF base grant and the grade span adjustments. So right now, from really looking at where we're at, I don't foresee, COLA is set by statute in regarding indicators that dictate what COLA will be, but always to keep in mind the augmentation can go both ways. It can be a positive augmentation is what we saw in 21-22 and in 22-23. There also can be a negative augmentation to the budget, and that is the way of adjusting for COLA. And so I just want to say this is a healthy COLA, and I'm really excited, but we are down $1.6 billion in Prop 98 proposed funding, and that money does have to come from somewhere. So it'll be interesting to see in May what the governor has proposed, because in May we will have more of our property taxes, sales tax, and those different avenues of revenue projection that the governor will have a better look at and where we're at. Our supplemental grants, this hasn't changed per se. Our supplemental grants are a base percentage of unduplicated count. Big shout out, they left us. Big shout out to everybody, including SoCal. Our numbers are looking great. And so a lot of families turn in applications. And so we do have not as strong as we've been in the past, but stronger than we were. Super happy about that. That keeps some of our funding levels where they need to be. A steep decline in the big three taxes are projected right now. And that's your sales tax, income tax, and your capital gains taxes. And part of that big drop, not to go too economic or political, is the fact that there was this large boom, right? Housing market took off, everybody sold stock, everybody cashed in on capital gains, and now the market is cooling and capital gains will start slowing down. Property taxes will start dropping again because the housing market is cooling down. So all those things have a ripple effect. And the 8.13 COLA is being applied to special ed as well, AB 602, which is our special ed funding. And in years, sometimes it's considered a bifurcated COLA because a lot of times special education funding will not receive the same COLA as our base funding. And it has been the practice the last few years for that to try to catch up with itself to get our AB 602 funding. So that'll bring us up to $886 per student for AB 602 funding. And then, I forgot because I'm looking at mine, sorry. One of the really interesting, sorry about that.
We take a quick pause. We're chilly. Are you chilly?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know.
And then I have a question. Do you want me to ask the question when you're on a slide or wait till the end?
I'm good either way. If while you're on the slide, it's always good because my mind is.
Okay, then I'll have one on that last slide.
Okay. The one we're on now or the next one?
The one we just finished.
We just finished when we go back.
All right.
Okay.
So, yeah. No, we just needed to warm.
Yeah, we're doing the modified games.
Dozens of YouTube watchers. We just had to warm the room up a little bit because it got chilly with the door open. I have a question though on this slide about the $1.6 billion reduction in funding. Are we talking about that as a reduction this budget as compared to what we got last year? And is that including the one-time monies? So that 1.6, is that including the one-time monies?
No,
Okay.
Actually what this is I'm sorry, I should have added that on there. The 1.6 billion is a reduction to Prop 98 guarantee.
Got it.
And it is a reduction from what the proposal was in July to what the proposal now is in January. So when the governor adopted his budget in July, it includes for 22-23, it includes 23-24 projected Prop 98 guarantee. And because of the taxes, the big three reducing, they've done a recalculation of Prop 98 for 23-24, and that has been reduced by the 1.6 billion.
Okay.
Which leads me to the next slide.
Thank you.
Where part of that in the one, I would say, controversial thing that is in this current projected 23-24 budget is what the governor is proposing as the $1.2 billion reduction to the art, music, instructional materials block grant, the 22-23, to be clear. This money was part of the 22-23 budget. It was acted in the 22-23 budget, and we will receive all of the cash in the 22-23 fiscal year. Part of the deficit that's being proposed to make that up for 23-24 is to reduce that one-time block money that the districts have already received by around 50%. So for our district, that would mean we were guaranteed just over $1 million, and we're looking at about $550,000 now as a guarantee. Again, this is a proposal, and it is the biggest chunk of money, as you can tell, the 1.2 billion to make up for the 1.6 billion in the proposed 98 reduction. This house is going to have to go through a lot of hoops. Districts have already received cash. A lot of districts have already proposed their plan to the boards. They've already spent their money. Like, there's a lot of what ifs around this. And this seems to be the biggest, what everybody doesn't know what to do with. Our district is in a good place. I mean, one, I don't want to give the money back, but
Yeah.
but because we haven't spent the money yet, and we're bringing the proposal later on in the year to the board, we're in a better place if that ends up coming to be. The hard part on this is I've talked about this with the County Office of Ed, is that what do we do? Do we bring to the board what we were already guaranteed? Do we bring to the board what we think they might reduce it to be? This is a hard one. So this is the one that I'm having my hardest time wrapping my mind around, how you can reduce a program in the next fiscal year after you've already guaranteed it and given the money. So it was even contingency money. So that's kind of where we are with that. Ironically, the one-time money of the learning recovery, which was a very specific grant, given the two grants were given, art and music instructional material block grant, and then our learning recovery, both were right around $1 million. They are not looking at touching the learning recovery money, which had a very much more specific use for it. So that was an interesting side note. Also, one of the things which is kind of answered my question, the voter approved Prop 28, which was the art music to fund art and music at every school in the state of California, was proposed as a no cost initiative to voters. So you're going to get art and music at no cost, and it's outside the Prop 98 guarantee. Now what the governor is proposing is, now that Prop 28 has passed, they're going to fold it into Prop 98 minimum guarantee, which again is going to then eat up, additional funding that would have been for base funding, because they're folding that into that. The Prop 28 music, really for music and art monies, is very specific by school site. This funding is not just, it's based on a per student allocation base, but by the base of a prior year by a school site. So the funding itself is very restrictive. But what they're saying is, yes, we're going to give you this Prop 28 money, even though we're taking away your one-time art and music money, right?
Yeah.
The thing of it is, we were already guaranteed Prop 28, we were already guaranteed our art and music. Prop 28 will bring us about 270,000. We're going to lose about 500,000. So it doesn't make sense any way that you look at it. But all of this is unknown. And you want a prediction from me, is even it may revise. I'm not sure if they'll find a conclusion. I think it's going to end up being fought out in legislation.
Mm-hmm.
And then our continued funding for expanded learning opportunities program, which will go us into at least 23-24, which is good news, because that is one of the things that was up in the air as well, is will they continue that program, and how long? And then the expansion of TK to all 4-year-olds for 23-24, they have a small grant that will continue into next year to help the implementation of that program. Specifically, if you have facility upgrades needs and or the addition of additional staff because of the new ratios that will go into effect. And then what's not in there? That's always fun. There's still no hold harmless for UPP. That's our unduplicated student count, which derives a lot of the funding for education in general. So the hope is that because, free and reduced applications across the state are not being turned in through all the hard work of people, even through all the hard work of our staff, they're not being turned in because, our kids are eating for free, which is fantastic. But there are other benefits to filling out these forms and or, that you can get. But right now that, the state has to look at a way to offset that, because the unduplicated count for our supplemental funding is a direct component of our LCAP, which goes into our LCFF funding. And so it's all tied into one. And as that continues to dwindle, so will our money and the programs that we're able to offer. Hardly any one-time categorical funding, very, very minimal amounts that were in there, and they're for programs I did not actually include here because none of them would affect our district. They're more for high school and graduation and geared towards those. And then oh, and that was the big topic. Since May of 2020, there's not a single dime of money in the budget for COVID relief or pandemic relief. So since then, just again, back to no one-time monies. So, and because you all know how I feel about a quote, you can't use up creativity. The more you use, the more you have, Maya Angelou. And I very much believe that. I am not a creative person, so I have to constantly try to be creative so I don't lose it altogether.
Creative in your way.
Right. My budget way. And questions.
Thank you.
I have a question. So I read, I think it was in the newspaper, that counties affected by the storms have a new tax date. I think it's the May 15th now. Does that affect your numbers or what we see in the budget? Because you were saying that the governor's budget, you know, is related to the Prop 98 is related to taxes. Is that affected at all?
Not really, because the way it works is that we're guaranteed $18 million, say, right, and through LCFF funding, and that's through the funding mechanism, through the funding formula, through our grade span adjustments, all of that, that's in our COLA. We are guaranteed that amount of money. It then comes down to how much do we receive in property taxes, and if it doesn't reach 18 million, it's backfilled by state funding. So if say property taxes and sales tax are slowed, the two may adjust each other, but in the end, we'll still receive the same amount. What could happen, and possibly, and this is what we ran a little bit into during the pandemic years, was that when they delay taxes, they'll delay the tax dates. It could cause deferrals, which doesn't cause us to lose money. It just causes that I need to make sure that we are on top of our cash flow.
Yeah.
So, but not a loss of funding.
You mentioned sales tax. We don't get sales tax, right? Or do we?
We do not get sales tax, but sales tax by the state is how we receive our state aid. It's the component of how the state makes its revenue. So when statewide sales tax is down, that means all, you know, state revenues go down and then our guarantee goes down. And right now, a lot of that is being derived from not sales tax in the sense of grocery shopping and things like that, because people will more so luxury tax, luxury items. People are not buying jets and boats like they used to. And so that drops how much sales tax that the state brings in.
So we get some of that is divvied up with us with the luxury tax to the schools.
It's the overall, so it's the state revenue mechanism, right? So
Oh,
sales,
okay.
property, yeah. And then education is guaranteed, their Prop 28 guarantee, which is 45-ish% of the state revenues that are brought in go into the Prop 98 guarantee.
Okay.
That Prop 28 sure is disappointing. So
Yeah.
disappointing. I mean, I feel like we just decided and voted but it's changing.
Yeah,
and we have to figure out how to deal with that and I'm disappointed.
It is, it 100% is. And when it was up, I just couldn't let that one go. I'm like, I don't know how this is going to work.
Yeah.
It is no cost to taxpayers and we're guaranteed. So, but
They just suck it out of somewhere else.
yeah, so
Basically what it
hopefully.
comes down to, yeah.
And hopefully once, like I said, July comes, or May, the May proposal or the final adopted budget will have some corrective action in that area.
Might be an advocacy opportunity for us as well. I don't know, something that CSBA will grab onto for Legislative Action Day or in our own individual communications with our state legislators.
Yeah.
Definitely something to raise awareness about. It's something, I mean, right, it's kind of low hanging fruit. Like people care so much. People want to support arts and arts and music and dance, like you said. Yeah. But overall, still some good news.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And I mean, ironically enough, less is better. The fact that there isn't a whole lot in this budget does make it a lot better for us to be to predict better into the future when we have a more stable budget that's putting money into the COLA and base as opposed to continuing one-time funding that has either such large restrictions it's hard to spend or timelines that can't be met.
Thank you. Any other questions from the table? All right. Questions from the public, nothing from the public in person. If you don't mind checking to see if we have any email questions.
No burning questions on email.
All right. Thank you very much for the update.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on the agenda is item 7D, discussion regarding board policy 450 comprehensive safety plan.
Policy time, you ready, Ted?
Oh, you got, yeah. Yeah, it's great.
So the first one is 0450, the comprehensive school safety plan. And all of these policies tonight, I would say the changes are relatively minor, but still important to be on top of new laws and that sort of thing. So really two main things. Oh, and I do need to say that on the page after the memo, there's a correction. And you have a hard copy page with some red font. So when we get to that next page after the memo, which is page 39 on the docket, please refer to this page. And so, as we always do, we have new language in bold and italic font and language to be removed in strike through. The first thing I'll bring to, I'm going to work from the bottom up to notice the changes. So in red on your hard copy, you will see that new language is that the superintendent or designee shall also provide data to CDE pertaining to lockdown or multi-option response drills conducted at district schools in accordance with the Ed Code. And so that is new language. Fortunately, we already do that. So our county office is really good at making sure all the districts, they have a point person who collects all the district safety plans. And so, and they report to CDE. So we already have a mechanism to do that. So in this case, the policy is catching up to the practice, which is always a better place to be.
What is CDE?
The California Department of Education.
Oh, right, okay. I was just seeing if you knew.
Not that one.
Yeah, good, yeah, all right. I was like, I knew it was somewhat, yeah.
Working our way up to the paragraph right above that, the superintendent designee shall share the comprehensive safety plans and any updates basically with all first responder entities. Fortunately, we do that. Our principals directly email it to all of our law enforcement partners, but then we also submit plans to COE, which spreads them around. So we got that mechanism in place. The other thing is just really a wording issue. And so if you go up about a third of the page down, it used to say public access to safety plans. Now they call that safety plan access and reporting. Wordsmithing, but in the minds of CSBA,
Yeah.
who we get these templates from, it was important to change. And then the paragraph right above that talks about the tactical response plan, which is just really, you know, whenever I talk about the comprehensive school safety plan, I say we have part one, which is public and program, and we want everybody to know about it. And then we have those part twos, which are the nitty gritty, emergency management, emergency response. We don't want the bad guys to know about that. And so anything related to like that it's always been that we can bring that to closed session. This just kind of rewords. It used to say that provided that any vote to approve the tactical response plan could be announced in open session following closed session. It just rewords it to very specifically say that that can be approved, the tactical response plan in closed session. That part is really wordsmithing. So those are the three changes that necessitated this board policy we brought forth for review. Again, on the two major changes, we already have the practice in place, so the policy is catching up to us.
Thank you. Questions?
I do have a question. The italic bold, the superintendent or designee. Now Capitola, would they report to Capitola PD and the rest of schools to the sheriff's department, or do they send them to both, like Capitola, the Capitola PD as well as the sheriff's department?
It's a great question, and I would say more and more, I think they always have, but the agencies are really working closely together. And so even at our code red trainings at school site, when we train with the staff, we've had both agencies there. And so long story short, I have the principal send them to both agencies.
Okay, good.
And then we literally give them a blurb so that principals have a lot to do. So we kind of just write it for them and say, if you're New Brighton and your main agency is Capitola PD, just write that. Sheriff's office is on this email too, just in an abundance of caution, so, because they might be the first responders.
Hey, something
Yeah.
happens,
Yep.
they're on it.
Yep.
So,
And both
Mhm.
agencies will say that, send us everything, because you never know who's gonna be driving by in a real emergency and be closest.
And what, just the data, what does that mean? Like, could you give me an example? The superintendent shall provide data?
That's just the word they're using to say, when are our plans, a list of plans, because that's the one pertaining to lockdown and multi-drill. Yeah, just when the scheduled plans are,
Like the practices?
the drills.
Oh, that we
Yeah,
would tell
yeah.
them that we're having a drill.
Yeah. And you'll see that in the comprehensive school safety plan, there's a list of the drills and everything.
Yeah,
I don't know why they don't call it schedule instead of data, but
yeah,
that's how it was recommended.
okay.
Yeah, that
Dates-
is interesting.
Dates or
Uh-huh.
data.
Okay.
a lot of websites to take a look at.
Yeah,
Well, it's interesting
Lots
on
of
the ed code, they changed the title from parent guardian notification notifications to annual notifications.
I think it's
So
to
the-
catch up, so
Yeah.
that when it comes out every year, that list of items that has to be. That every parent who registers their student in our school has to check off that they read, that list grows and grows every year. And
Okay.
the nomenclature has become the annual notice. I think it used to kind of be referred to as.
Oh, I didn't read the code. I just noticed that when it first came out and I was gonna read it, but I
You
didn't.
really do look at all the pages.
Well, I do, yeah. Yeah, and it's kind of embarrassing because CDE is, described a couple paragraphs up and like, oh yeah, that's right. Well, that's my brain anyway, so.
I do not have any questions. Anything else from here?
Oh.
All right, anything from the audience?
This is gonna be the one, wait.
Okay,
No, nothing on email.
okay. All right, thank you.
As a reminder, when there are kind of not a lot of discussion items on a board policy, our practice is now to bring it back the next time in consent for approval.
Right.
So you'll see it next time in consent.
Great. Thank you. On to the next one, 7E, discussion about policy 0430, comprehensive local plan for special education.
So our North County SELPA is the agency which governs all the school districts in the county, except for Pajaro, who has our own SELPA because of their size, and a few other agencies like Pacific Collegiate Charter. And so that is our SELPA, our special area local plan for special education. And so this is related to that. And so I'll just go into the next page, and the area that's changed here is, you'll see in bold and italics that each year the superintendent or designee shall provide to the board any data and or information regarding the special education funding generated by the district as supplied by the state public superintendent of public instruction. That's the SPI and the SELPA in accordance to the ed code. And so there's been kind of a lot of talk around the state about SELPAs. So when our district is identified to receive funds for special education, they go through the SELPA, and so because that's how our students are served, right? And so there's kind of been a lot of talk. I think some of the bigger districts especially are wanting to kind of move away from SELPAs. For districts like us, it would be crushing, right? But this legislation is, I think, to kind of shine a light to make sure that boards know that the money that SELPAs have really are generated from the districts. And so it's kind of bringing transparency to say, we have to announce, right? We have to be really clear to say that the SELPA has X amount of money, our slice that we generated to contribute to that is here. And so there has to be mechanisms in place to make sure that that is really clear. And so I think it's important for us to be up to date with the policy. I will just tell you, because I think you will hear some things you know, through CSBA and other places where SELPAs are a little bit kind of in the spotlight. I don't know how we do it without a SELPA. I mean, from a funding perspective or from a services perspective, big districts can have a program. We might have one or two students in certain situations that need a particular program. There's no way we can get a teacher, aides, classroom, everything else that goes along with it to produce that kind of program. And so having regional programs in the SELPA really is, you know, it's invaluable to us. So, but this is to make sure that it's very clear how much our district generates, how much each district in the SELPA generates that contributes to the SELPA.
So
Wow, okay.
our SELPA is part of the county.
Yeah, it's all the districts in the county except for Potter, because they're big enough to be their own SELPA.
Okay, and then that's the SELPA, but
We're
then
we're the
part,
North County SELPA.
okay, and then part of our district monies that SoCal earns goes to the SELPA. And then who decides how to spend it? Is it the people in that SELPA?
Great question, SECA.
Yeah.
Special Education Coordinating Agency, of which I'm a board member. All the
SECA's
different
yeah.
superintendents are. And so we sit around about once a month in this kind of forum as voting members and everything. So that nobody gets to dominate that. The loudest voice at the table doesn't get to dominate that.
Mhm.
We're very lucky. We have, when you have districts as small as a mountain, you know, and as big as city schools, things can get, you know, like where folks are battling for resources. And so I've been here 7 years and that hasn't been the case. We take care of the smalls because like one, you know, residential placement or something for the smalls, which can be more than 6 figures or well into the 6 figures, can be devastating to a district's small budget, right? And so there's pools for the smalls to make sure that, you know, in case of that kind of situation, it's almost like an insurance policy. And so, yeah, we have a very cooperative SELPA and good mechanisms to make sure that everybody has a voice at the table. So I bring that up just because in my mind, that's why this language exists, is to say, hey, you know, the SELPA doesn't just get this money because it gets it because your district contributes a little and your district contributes a little. And okay, well, so what? We could do the work we do without collaborating like that.
Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, my brain is working a little bit slow, but so just to kind of what we're looking at is the idea is that we get the money, we give it to the SELPA, but you, the superintendent, provides us with the data regarding how much we gave. Is that right?
Is that good?
Okay. Okay.
That was a good plain language explanation.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions on this one? I'm
No, that's a question.
one of the things I love about policy review is I just keep learning more,
Yes.
right? So I've been on the board a while, but this was like a really good explanation of the SELPA and the way the funding works and your kind of real world example of sitting around at the table as the CEQA, is it? No, not
SECA.
SECA, not CEQA.
That's
Wrong.
another agency.
Yeah, the SECA board, that helps me visualize it. So thank you. But no questions from me. Any questions from the audience? Any questions on email?
Nothing on email.
Okay.
I'd just like to add, though, that we do, the CBOs and the SPED directors do attend meetings like 3 or 4 times a year. If they're talking about anything financially related or anything where it's like, no, don't spend.
And that does not happen everywhere, because what happens a lot is like one decision is made there, and then 3 weeks later, the chief goes, we're doing what program? Ours actually talk together at
Yeah.
the same meeting, so it's got a lot of good systems in place.
It does. It's great. It's really great, I have to say.
So smart. I mean, a student at a small district could start there in elementary, come here for middle
Right.
school, go to city schools for their secondary
And they
education.
sure do.
So,
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so working together to meet those kids' needs is super important. So thank you. All right, next, in the last policy item, discussion on board policy 460 LCAP.
Right, some new laws are on LCAP, and we all know we're in LCAP season, I like to call it, starting off with a community forum, and so kind of good timing to be thinking about some of the laws around that. If you go to the next page, the first page of the actual policy, you'll see about 5 paragraphs down. And beginning July 1st, 2025, I won't read the whole thing.
Mhm.
Yes, we're getting that far ahead.
Mhm.
And so there's some laws about if you're in a needs improvement program. In special education, then you have to have a special addendum beginning in the 2025 LCAP.
Mhm.
And then it goes in, so whether it's clear or not, I will say I had to read it like 4 or 5 or 9 times. If you write such a plan because you're in a needs improvement category in special education and you have to write such a plan after 2025, then you have to have an addendum by 2028. So I hope that's not too confusing. That was the best way I could summarize it. Because if you read it, it seems very circular.
Right.
But basically, it just provides some dates that if you're, so we get data that
Mhm.
says how certain student groups are doing. We were actually in program improvement for special education a couple of years ago because too many of our students with disabilities were being suspended. We took a lot of
Yeah.
corrective measures. We're very mindful
Mhm.
every time we consider a suspension, whether we're inadvertently have biases that are targeting a certain group. So we got out of that, which is great. But if we were to get back in and we would have to have that extra LCAP addendum to go along with our LCAP. Pause there because that's a lot of like circular stuff to see if.
Yeah, I circled the airport on that one.
It's not just-
And the addendum really is the parent advisory. That's the addendum.
So on this, I think the parent advisory is the next section. So this first section
Yeah.
is IDEA addendum if we are in that category of needs improvement. The next section, going down to the page 2 of 6 on the 3rd paragraph. Well, this part talks about, and it is for middle school, a double and triple check, because a lot of times these kind of additions are only for high school districts.
Right.
But this is for middle and high school districts, so I think it's pretty
Okay.
cool. And I know Dr. Glantz, she loves working directly with students, so this is gonna be right up her alley. Is that on the parent advisory, LCAP parent advisory team, there will, beginning in July 1st of 2024, there has to be 2 middle school students.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Okay.
If I know Dr. Glantz, she'll probably do it this year.
Because it doesn't have age here. So like you said, this is,
It's middle and high school, yep.
yeah, it was good for, okay, high school. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And then the third part, did I skip over the third part? There was, oh, I'm sorry, I did, right above that paragraph that we just looked at. There is a section about the parent advisory committee.
Yeah,
It wordsmiths instead of
Right.
review and comment, provide advice.
that's right. More like.
It's a stronger. Yeah, so it's like, you're not just commenting.
Right, right. Yeah, I know. I
Giving
saw that. Like,
advice.
whoa, yeah.
And then in addition to unduplicated students, which we know are English learner and low income students, it also specifies that there has to be a parent or guardian of a student with disabilities, which is all in the name of inclusiveness, making sure everybody has voice in that outcome. So those are the 3 changes related to that board policy.
I'm wondering if there's sorry, but just noticing, I'm wondering if there's a typo on
39.
the 39. I'm like,
Yeah, I
that doesn't
know.
make sense.
I don't know how I missed that.
yeah.
I think it is.
So on page 2 in that large paragraph, on the 3rd line, kind of on the right-hand side, it says 39 student members of the parent advisory committee shall represent. I think that 39 is
Yeah,
like
39.
maybe a cut and paste boo
It was
boo or a
hanger.
typo.
Yeah. I
Because
will-
there aren't going to be 39 student members of the committee. I don't- not here. So 2 is awesome though.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And this really is only applicable if we're in needs improvement.
That part, the middle school students on the advisory team, that's yes, whether we're in needs improvement or not. And
Okay.
then the part about adding a parent of a student with disabilities, that's no matter what status we're in. It's just having the addendum beginning in whatever that is, 2025,
Mhm.
that is
Okay.
dependent on our status.
And I don't really understand what the addendum is, but there's probably a lot of language
It'll be
about it.
another plan.
Yeah, yeah.
Another
whole
plan
nother
to
plan,
go
yeah.
with the plan.
So excited.
And, but so then we're talking about a group, an advisory group that do we have an advisory group now
Yep.
or we do?
Yep.
And what are they called?
It's exactly what, because we want it to be compliant, it's
Yeah.
called the LCAP Parent Advisory Group.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay.
and I'm sure that within the next couple of board meetings, Dr. Clancy will be talking about that as we get all the input.
Okay.
LCAP.
Okay. And that's made up of like, of our parents from multiple schools and.
Yep.
And we'll hear all about it.
Yep.
Okay, cool. And now there's gonna be students on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Tell your daughter, so I know my daughter won't want to send. I can't interest her in LCAP.
Thank you. Any other questions from the table here? No. Questions from the audience? No. Any questions on email?
Nothing on email.
I'll keep trying. Thank you. All right, thank you for bringing these policies to
Yes.
us. Always good conversation. And then we do have one action item, correct?
Yes.
All right, so consider approval of the bid contract from the County Office of Education for the E-rate Category 1 Internet Access Services.
I know, yeah, huh?
Yes, best for last.
Thank you.
Pretty cool.
So, we receive E-rate funding or discounts, I should say. We receive E-rate discounts as they call them. In full transparency, we have a consultant that does a lot of the back end work of this because E-rate is a lot, and so that we don't miss out on any of the discounts that we have available to us. But part of the E-rate category funding is Category 1 and Category 2. Category 1 is internet access services, and Category 2 would be hardware, software upgrades and purchases. And so we receive these discounts and credits through the program in and of itself. In Category 1, what I'm asking the board to approve tonight is not part of the credit or discount we are receiving. That's Category 2. If we were purchasing software or hardware, which right now we are not, we're pushing that off until 24 because we're not in need of it now and the credits will roll forward. And so for Category 1, it's just a requirement. We do an RFP and go out to bid for internet provided services.
Mhm.
Our actual internet is provided through Charter, and that is a separate Category 1 contract that goes out for RFP and in the same vein at all of our school sites. Now including Opal Cliffs, very excited to say they are on board. They are no longer separate from our full-blown Charter experience. And so this is like hosting services, basically. The COE hosts us, and so we go through them. They do bids. We have always gone with the COE. Their bids, it is a competitive bid process. They already have the infrastructure set up in order to host us and our firewalls and everything that we need to do. AT&T also submitted a bid, as you can tell. They were scored lower, mainly because pricing was much more. Infrastructure was not there, and the district would have to put sunk costs into getting AT&T where we need to be. They really only go to our property line. We would need to bring them in fully in order to make the contract work. And so this evening, I'm just bringing to the board to get approval for our internet access service provider, which is the County Office of Education.
Okay.
And then we still have control of our school website,
Yes, that's all. This is basically the pipeline.
right?
All
Okay, good.
right. Any other questions? None for me, yes.
Sorry, silly question. Now, we don't have to change anything in the school campuses or anything, because I would like to post it on the wall saying there's gonna be changes, be prepared. Because a lot of times they don't know, they say, no one told us, it's like, oh, you guys have a board meeting, I heard about it. So, but there's not gonna be any kind of.
Nope.
And the other thing, if AT&T were to bring their, I think you said, bring their wires to us or fiber optic, whatever it is, would we be able to like charge neighbors off of that?
No.
No. Thank you.
Trust me, I could if I would. I would if I could. But no.
Good questions. Thank you.
And we did the last time we went out to bid, which was 4 years ago now. We actually did a walkthrough with AT&T just because we wanted to make sure we fully vetted the process. And just even though their bid was substantially higher, I just wanted to get the whole background on it. And we did a walkthrough. We're super nice, just not possible.
All right. Thank you. Any emails asking burning questions on this action item?
Wait, it's a surprise. I know.
Okay.
No, nobody on email.
All right, well, since this is an action item, do I have a motion to approve the bid contract?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second? I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Technology keeps getting stronger and
Ah.
stronger and stronger.
Yeah. George loves it.
I remember the time when we had to go through COE for our websites and and
was like
setting
that
the
when I-
agenda. Was that like that?
Yeah.
Phil? Oh, man. Oh, they're on vacation. It'll be next,
Nope.
All right, any correspondence for any trustees to report? Or have we received any official correspondence? All right, I did get the letter from the COE that we had anticipated last time. So
Nice.
I think my mail did get a little delayed with the storm. So just what was that, the first
interim report, yes.
saying it's all good, thumbs up from the COE.
Yes.
Any future agenda items requested by trustees right now this evening? No, okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn? I'll make the motion. I can do that. Do I have a second?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
10 seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank
Thanks,
you
Rita.
very much. We'll see you
All
all at
right,
the
yeah.
LCAP Community Forum.
That's right.
Hey,
Yeah,
when you do
to our
flag- when you do
YouTube
flag